That's 5 runs he's involved in. Matt Chapman. Olsen skies one high and deep to right field toward the corner of Dell. Onto the track near the wall, leaps up and got it. Makes the catch for out number 3. Olsen. On he goes. Which is hit out towards center field. That's smoke. That is going to be into the bushes. A 2-run home run for McCutcheon. And the Phillies take a 2-0 lead.
Here's another 3-2 going again as Soto hits one high in the air, right center field. Brinson near the wall, leaps, and he makes the catch! Lewis Brinson makes an unbelievable catch over the wall in center field.
Well, all right. Everybody, welcome in to this edition of the Belly Up Fantasy Live Baseball Show. And unbelievably enough, we have actual baseball to actually talk about as baseball is underway. The opening days have already happened. It's the first weekend of Major League Baseball. And there's a lot to talk about. So you're going to want to strap in. Of course, my name's Kevin. I am the host here. And joining me, as always, the right hand, I'm talking about Vince. He's got his own show over there, the Sports Stove podcast that can be seen throughout North America and possibly South America. So, Vince, how are we doing tonight?
I'm doing great. You can catch the show wherever you want to watch it. We're on everywhere. I'm doing great, Kevin.
That's right.
Brewers got their first win of the season after a rough start, and that makes me happy, though. We got win 1 under our belts. And fantasy baseball is kicking and in full force, so I'm doing great.
Great. And so joining us as he often does, I was to say always, but often, except for when the basketball was going on up there. Of course, I'm talking about the Belly Up baseball department head and overall just baseball master. Of course, I'm talking about Dan D'Amico. Dan, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I haven't had a fantasy team disappoint me yet, but it's only been 3 days and we don't have any records yet, so I'm sure that's coming at some point. And I'm just glad to have baseball back. I think I've spent more time watching baseball in the past 3 days than have spent sleeping, and I hope I can keep that up.
Well, the body will signal you when it's time to take a break, so you might want to listen to that if it comes to that situation. But, yeah, you're right, Dan. There is a lot going on. And anybody that thinks that baseball is boring obviously don't know what they're talking about. Because here we are, it's 3 days into it, 4. And we have had extra inning games. We've had, walk-off home runs. We've had strong pitching performances. We've had the benches clearing
multiple
already.
times. Yeah.
And so there is an absolute lot to talk about. And one of the things I wanted, because we have not talked about this as of yet, is the new system that baseball is installing this year. I'm talking about the PitchCom situation where there will be no longer any, 1 fingers for a fastball, 2 for a slider or curve or whatever it is. They just punch that into their on their wrist, and it goes to the pitcher, and off we go. So, Vince, how do you think this is working in baseball so far?
It's fine. Not everybody's using it. The Cubs aren't using it, but it's definitely an option out there for some people. I think it's going to take time, mainly for the pitchers, probably more than anybody to adjust to it. But I'm not a fan of it. I don't love it. I feel like I'm pretty progressive with baseball stuff, but with this one, I don't know. I don't understand. If you can use technology to call plays, you should be able to use technology to steal signs. And I don't know. I don't like it. I want them to put the fingers down and let's keep moving.
All right. So Dan, what's your opinion on this?
Well, you don't have to use it, and if you don't like it, then you can leave it behind. And I think Zach Eflin used it in his start today. I wasn't able to catch any of it, but I mean, it's fine. Like, I feel almost indifferent about it. Like, if you want to use it, use it. But I'm just waiting for, playoff situation, wait for the crowd to go silent and maybe the batter can pick up on what the audio device is saying to the pitcher, and maybe you'll be able to know that there's a fastball coming and hit one out in a crucial situation.
Well, it's interesting to me because if you are technical savvy enough, what's stopping somebody from just whatever listening on the signals or getting in there and so we're just bringing up new avenues of cheating, and that's baseball and cheating go hand in hand with each other. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. And so I'm going to start with you, Vince. So what, after the first 4 days of this season, has stood out to you so far?
I'd say bad pitching, a slow start for the pitchers. Some of that's weather. There's been some really cold games here to start the season. So I'm not worried about it, but it stood out to me. I mean, the Cy Young winner from last year got chased. And I'm talking about Corbin Burns. And there were a couple of guys that looked good, but there was just a lot of ugly pitching to start the season. But I expect in the next week or two that to kind of all clear up and get back to where it's supposed to be. But that's probably what stood out the most so far.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Vince, because, of course, the Brewers are your team.
Yeah.
And so last year, Corbin Burns walked, 3 guys in like 2 months? And so
yeah.
He walked 3 in the first, in his first start in only 5 innings. Do you, are you just subscribing, it's the first start of the season, nothing to worry about, and just move on?
Yeah, I think overall that's the way you got to look at it. I'm looking up some stats right now. Let's see here. Burns went 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, 3 earned runs. Woodruff follows that with 3.2 innings, 7 earned runs, 2 strikeouts.
That's really got to be concerning, doesn't it, Vince?
That's scary, yeah. And Peralta started off a little rough on Sunday, but he ended well. And then the bullpen came in and played great for Milwaukee. So, like I said, it's just a matter of time for these guys. They had a shorter spring training, kind of rushed into the season. It'll all level itself out.
All right. So, Dan, what has stood out to you so far in the first 4 days of the season?
Well, I completely agree with Vince with the pitching. I was looking at my pitchers across both of my fantasy leagues, and I don't think any pitchers really stood out like, oh, yeah, he had a really good start. I mean, I had some guys where I'm like, yeah, that's fine, 5 innings, 3 earned. But I've seen there's a lot of high score, especially today. We had a couple teams runs today. I think the Red Sox and the Yankees are still in the second inning now, an hour into their game, and I don't remember if it's always like this to start the year. I know we had a short spring, but it seems like a lot of really talented pitchers had less than stellar outings in their first time around, and I'm curious to see if that continues now as we get into the pitchers, and maybe we score 20 runs. Of course, the Phillies today.
Well, just for my personal, I'm going the opposite way, because on my fantasy team, my pitchers have almost universally stepped up. And, of course, Adam Wainwright, Vince, and nobody wanted him, if you remember, in our league. And I got him in the 20th round. Well, he went out there on opening day, and he pitched extremely well. And then I have Sean Manaea that got traded to the Padres. He went out, and he pitched extremely well. Dylan Cease for the White Sox pitched well. Logan Webb of the Giants pitched well. And even though he didn't win, Shohei Ohtani on opening day, he pitched well. He didn't win, but he still got 12 fantasy points. And one of the things, we're not really into our fantasy part yet, but I just want, because one of the questions that I saw that what people were asking was, if you do happen to have Shohei Ohtani and he is on the mound, do you put him as on the mound or do you put him as a hitter? And I'm going to say if he's the pitcher, you put him down as the pitcher, because the chances of getting points are much higher as a pitcher than they are as a hitter, unless he, goes 3 for 4 with 2 home runs and a double and something like that. So if you're like me and you happen to have Shohei Ohtani on your fantasy team, start him as a pitcher. You get 6 days others, that you can put him down as a hitter. So go ahead and let's, and do that. And so the pitching, and one of the guys I wanted to bring up, because we'll get into this a little bit later too, is, one of our guys in our league took Bieber in the first round. And so, but he didn't
Hold on.
pitch very.
Not only in the first round though,
The
right?
first pitcher off the board.
Yeah, and it was number 6
7.
overall.
Number 7 overall. And so he didn't pitch badly. He went out there and he didn't pitch a full 5 innings, but he didn't pitch badly. But when we get to our losers and winners portion, I'm sure his name's going to come up in our discussion. But some of the other things, you mentioned him, Dan. Tyler O'Neill has started off his season. He's looking good. Some other guys, Framber Valdez pitched extremely well, 6 2/3 innings. He gave up, and yep, I know he belongs to you, Vince. So you're all over that. So no runs on 2 hits, 6 strikeouts, 1 walk. So you had that, and I'd be remiss, Vince, if I didn't mention this, that something had happened in baseball over the weekend that hadn't happened since the 19th century, and that is the Toronto Blue Jays and the Rangers began play on Friday, and the Rangers led 7-0. Lo and behold, Toronto comes back and scores, and they tie the game, and they go on to win 10-8. Now that is the largest comeback on opening day that has ever happened since the 19th century.
Huh.
So, and I don't know if you saw that on Twitter. Graham posted himself up there of his, Blue Jays going woo woo, and I'm like, hey, let's pipe that noise down when you're playing the Rangers, okay? But if they're doing something that hasn't happened since the 19th century, it'd be kind of hard to keep that to a low level. I realize that, but when it comes to baseball, you just don't know what you're going to see.
Right. Did you see Cleveland beat Kansas City on Sunday 17-3?
I did see that. And so, just how things are working out there, where you got all these pitching performances that are great that I mentioned, and the pitching performances that you talk about, Vince, that were pretty much, in the toilet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, baseball, there's so much going on. You just have to embrace it. And one of the things I wanted to mention was on opening day, Arizona and the San Diego Padres. Did you happen to notice that on beer night, no less, a guy named Seth Beer comes to the plate, 9th inning, and he hits a 3-run walk-off home run. And so that shows you right there, while the Padres made the move to get Rogers from Minnesota, because Craig Stammen, now, if you know who that is, raise your hand, because I didn't know who he is. Apparently, no one's going to know who he is from here forward, because he is gone from the closer role already. Because the next night, Rogers came in and he nailed down the save. So, and is that somebody that you have, Vince? Roger?
I have a different Rogers.
Oh, you have the guy from Miami? Is that what it is?
I've got the one for San Francisco.
Okay, so I know there are several of them running around. So.
Yeah. I've got them in another league. I do have them in another league. And when the trade happened, I thought, wonder if that's going to be good or bad. But I think it's going to turn out just fine.
Yeah, that's got to boost his value going from the Twins, which we don't know what's going to happen with them, to the Padres. So I think that's definitely a step forward. And if you're out there in fantasy the world and you have Stammen on your team, you might as well kick him today. All right. So just a little advice out there. So Let's see what else we have, because we've got Boston and we got the Yankees. As you mentioned, Dan, they're on the field as we speak. And so that's baseball's top rivalry. I don't think anybody could seriously debate that. And so that kind of just fell into baseball's lap, where that's their first opening, series. And so it's all out there. Baseball, we're here. So anything else that we need to talk about, Vince, as far as actual on-field baseball?
I don't think so. Dan,
Okay.
anything for you?
I
Dan?
want to shout out
Shout
Steven
out. Go
Kwan
ahead.
today for the Guardians. Went 5-5 and scored 4 runs in that 17-3 onslaught of the Royals today. I have not heard of him personally. I don't think many people around baseball know who Steven Kwan is. I'm sure if we asked Zach Martin, who is our resident Guardians fan, I'm not sure he would be able to tell us who Steven Kwan is.
Okay.
And he had a heck of a day.
One of
He
the
is-
things that
he's-
we could go ahead, Vince.
He's rostered in 2.8% of ESPN leagues. That is up 2.3%.
Okay, so he's out there.
He's available.
So one of the guys that we talk about the Royals. One of the guys we could mention is the rookie shortstop, Bobby Witt. Is it?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. He goes out there, first game, family's in the stands. He has his first hit, his first run batted in, and his first run. And so, the whole stadium's going bananas and everything else. And so that's baseball at its finest right there. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of him doing things like that. And so, if you're one of the lucky ones that happen to get Bobby Witt, enjoy that. Dan, is that you?
That's me. I was
That's
lucky
you.
enough to get him.
Okay.
Off to a
So-
good start.
Also, we should mention yesterday is you had in the Angels and Houston game, you had Justin Verlander and Noah Syndergaard going up, tet-to-tet yesterday. So, like I'm saying, baseball, check it out. Get into it. It's a great game. Okay. So let's transition over to the fantasy side of things. And so hopefully you joined us, even though ESPN was trying to hamper our performance with going down, and it stayed down for what was it, 40 minutes or so?
It was at least 20. It was a while.
It was a while, and we were just about to say, well, let's go ahead and cut the live feed, and miraculously it returned. But so we did do our live draft last week, and so when you look at our league, I'll start with you, Dan, with this one. What, if anything, stood out in our draft as it happened?
What do you think the amount of pitching that was going early? I kind of looked down at around the 6th or 7th round, and I only had a couple pitchers. And all I saw on the top remaining players was position players. So I felt like I didn't get enough pitching, at least enough proven pitching for me. I've got a lot of guys that kind of have something to prove this year, and if they hit, they'll be really good. But if they can't get that consistent high level play, I'm stuck with some middling pitching, and I'm gonna have to annoy some of the people in our league to try and trade for some pitchers.
All right. So, Vince, our draft last week, what'd you make of it?
It was a lot of fun, first of all. I had a really good time with it. My
Despite
dad said,
everything that happened, it was a lot of fun.
yeah, Dad said the same thing. He really enjoyed it as well. The homer picks got interesting, right?
It did.
So you had
Absolutely.
Nathan Ewan was going all in on Philadelphia players. You had Tom Matheny going in on Cleveland players. He's the one that took Bieber in the first round. And he had Noah Berger taking all the Marlins players that he could have taken 7 rounds later. He just wanted his guys. I made a homer pick. I took up Christian Yelich earlier than I probably needed to. Outside of that, I felt like I stuck with my game plan pretty well. And then, of course, probably the biggest disappointment of the draft was Belly Up co-founder Mike Brown auto drafting through most of it. So, and then him trash talking about how
I was getting ready to bring that up. Did you see all the trash talk that was going on? So,
oh yeah. So I got a bet.
Me too. Did you see? I got in on that, Vince. I got it. I'm up for that action.
I said he'll end up in the bottom 2. I was going to say last, but Noah Berger's team is horrible, full of Marlins. So I said the bottom 2, and he said I'll be in the top 2 and put a bet on the line.
He said he'll bet he even wins the league. I'm like, okay, I'll wade right into the deep end on that one.
I'll take that one. But it was good. It was a lot of fun. We had I had a blast doing it. We had 8 of the 10 guys were on the live stream, and all 10 were live to draft to some degree. Mike was in and out. He was driving, but even the other guy that didn't show up to the draft was still drafting live, which was nice. And so overall, I thought it was a blast. You got to learn a lot about strategy, the different strategies that go into it. Like Dan said, pitchers going off early, and then the homer side of it, and that's fine. I want to be in a league with homers. I count on that guys are going to take guys from their team when they shouldn't, and that helps me in the draft. So I thought it was fun, and I think it really set up the league to be really interesting this year.
All right. So one of the things that I made a big deal about this during the draft when our Cleveland Guardians gentleman picked Shane Bieber in the first round, and he was the first pitcher off the board. And so, one of the things I just wanted to mention when it comes to any fantasy, when it's the first round, you take the players that have the highest possible floor to me. You don't want to make a mistake in the first round, because if you do that, you're behind everybody else in the league.
You said it right there. If you do that, that's exactly what you're doing.
So, and I could kind of tell from the look on his face that, hey, Kevin, you might want to lay off a little bit on him. But
he was all in, wasn't he? All in on that Bieber pick.
All in. He was all in. And, and I also understand going out and getting your guy. I get that. But the only thing that I was talking about was he could have taken any of the players that, were behind that, and Shane Bieber would have still been there in the second round.
Yeah.
I am absolutely convinced of that. And so that's the only thing that, in our first round. And one of the other things I found out, Vince, because I did an article, as you're probably aware, the next day I got that out there of the draft, and I got to figure out how to spell Garrett. All right, from Garrett Cole, because I was taken to the cleaners on him. But beyond that, that was the only thing in the first round I was kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then Vince, you stepped up right at the beginning of the second round, taking Mike Trout.
Yeah.
And so, if he's healthy, that's a good selection.
The way I look at Mike Trout is he was the number 1 overall pick for several years. The issue is injuries, for sure.
Yeah.
I was willing to take the risk that he was going to play a large majority of the season this year. Now, I could be wrong. It could be a swing and a miss, but he's Mike Trout.
Mike Trout, yeah. So if you're going to go down in the quicksand, let it be Trout that drags you.
Yeah, definitely. I was excited to see him there. I got Trey Turner at 9. I was surprised.
That's a great pick at 9. Great.
Yeah. So I felt like I could take a swing there at pick 12 when the turn came back to me with Mike Trout sitting there. I wanted to take like a Brandon Woodruff there, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take my shot here with Mike Trout. Okay,
so then the second round continued. You had Sandy Alcantara. I thought went off the board rather early. That goes back to the homer picks that you're talking about, but he's a quality pitcher, so that's not that bad. And then Your dad took Julio Urias, and I don't know if you saw, he got lit up today. So hopefully he benched him. Anytime you have a starting pitcher that's pitching in Colorado, chances are good that you're going to want to put him on your bench.
You go back to our pitcher rankings. Someone in this three-man
and we won't mention who that is. Is that what we're doing?
Do not draft him. He's going to be overdrafted, overhyped, not going to be as good as he was. And that person was right. That's all I want to say.
Okay. So I thought that was a little early for him. I don't think that we need to throw him out in the trash heap, based off one Colorado start. But one of the guys that I thought might come around to me at the end of the second round was Matt Olson. He went in the middle of the second round. You really can't argue with that. And then everything kind of went. And then Aaron Nola went off the board before you. And then Zach Wheeler went off to you right after that. So out of those two pitchers, Dan, who do you if you had both of them on the board, would you have still taken Zach Wheeler?
Absolutely. Zach Wheeler was the better pitcher last year, and I think he certainly has the higher floor. They both have really high ceilings, but Aaron Nola had a really good game on opening day, and then in the seventh inning, it all kind of fell apart, and he gave up a 3-run home run on a full count, and that kind of soured the day. But Zach Wheeler, he'll make his start in a couple of days. He had a late start to spring, but he pitched 210 plus innings last year, 230 strikeouts, and he's a guy that when he's right, he looked like I thought he should have won the Cy Young last year, but he's clearly a guy that is capable of going out again. And to get him in the third round, I thought was fantastic, especially after Aaron Nola, who I know, Kevin, you had him on. I'm staying way far away from him. And maybe he had a good start, but he showed why you kind of want to stay away from him. He's liable to give up home
like
runs
I was saying earlier, Dan, I had him last year, and I was sour off of him, so I was glad that I wasn't going to revisit him. So the rest of that third round went pretty. There wasn't any real surprises going on. Mike took Robbie Ray at the end of the third, and we were all kind of questioning him going to Seattle. He pitched very well, so maybe that's going to work out for him. And then it went on. Let's see. There was nothing. Jose Barrios looked absolutely dreadful. So. And that's one of the things, because Toronto Blue Jays' offense is humming to start the season, but their pitching looks awful. He only got one out Friday. And then, what's his name? Henru, or however you pronounce that, he got rocked today. And so there's got to be some current concern right there when it comes to the Toronto Blue Jays starting pitching to me.
I would say Rayu is definitely a concern because he's had a couple rough seasons. Barrios, I'm not too worried about him. Again, it's going to come around. It'll be fine. And Rayu will be okay. But Barrios, I'm not worried about him. It'll click. You just got to give him some time. Again, these pitchers, man, they got rushed in, and some of them survived it better than others. But I'm not – at this point – I'm hoping that guys want to get rid of pitchers. Like I'm reaching out, I'm like, hey, Corbin Burns looked horrible. Let me give you somebody. Let's see here. Who do I have that I can, I guess I can give up Luke Voigt for Corbin Burns. Burns looked bad,
well, anybody does that, you should, definitely take him back to the woodshed and self-correct that. But,
overreaction. When you're playing fantasy baseball, you're looking for other people to overreact.
That's right.
If you can jump on that and take advantage of it, no apologies behind it. Now, I'm in a couple leagues. Many of the guys in my leagues, I've been in with them for a while now, so we know each other. I send my first offer It's very lopsided. I'll counter, or if they'll counter to me, I'm willing to have the conversation and eventually come to a realistic trade offer. But I always start, and I know I'm telling this to guys in my league, but I always start with a very lopsided offer. And if they take it, awesome. And if they're willing to come back and say, hey, that's stupid, I say, I know it is. Send me a counter offer. Let's start the conversation. Sadly, some guys will immediately say, well, I'm not trading with that guy. He's, like, hey, counter offer. Let's start the conversation. But I'm going to obviously try to win the trade every time.
Right. And so, you mentioned that earlier, Vince, about, if you're in a league and you get a trade offer, just don't sit there and, and pretend like it didn't happen. And so, just decline.
Yeah.
Decline. You don't have to say, any bad words or, anything. Just decline it, move forward. And so, since you mentioned this, Vince, you talked about overreactions. Mm-hmm. So when do you stop saying this is an overreaction and this is actually what I'm seeing?
Well, it depends. I think hitters, you can give up a little faster than pitchers. I think hitters, because there's just more players in the pool that make sense, or even people who are willing to trade for them. You can give up after a couple weeks if they're not going the way you think they should go. Pitchers, I want to see at least 5 starts out of a pitcher before I'm going to give up on them. And that's just me. That's the way I look at it, is you got to give them time to get in the groove. And, at some point, though, you can't hold on to people too long. And batters, we tend to hold on. But what's going to happen is as soon as you let them go, they're going to take off. And then you're going to be like, come on. But it's part of life, man. It's the fantasy baseball gods are gonna watch over you and eventually strike you down for something that you did. But I say batters, especially guys that you didn't draft early. If you drafted guys late you go ahead and get rid of them. Bring in guys that are hot. Then you're going to do that all season, constantly moving the bottom of your team. It's going to be just mowing it every couple of weeks, bringing in new guys. You might come back to them, but you have to be willing to let go of guys if they're not doing well and find guys that are. Especially, like I said, if you drafted a guy in the first 4, 5, 6 rounds, you're not cutting them. Like, you might trade them, but you're not just letting them go. And I'm never. I mean, there are guys. You looked at Bellinger last year and how bad he was. It was hard for me to say I'm letting him go, because you just know at any moment it can click again. But it didn't for Bellinger, and you got to figure out. So like this year, I wasn't drafting Bellinger. But if he starts going off, I'm willing to trade for him.
So Dan, do you echo what Vince is saying on going from overreaction to actual reaction and action?
Yeah, obviously, most hitters are going to go through lulls and hot streaks, but once a lull starts to last beyond 2 weeks, that's when there's some serious fixing that they need to do, and that's probably when you can start to look to cut bait. I'd say probably 2.5, 3 weeks. That's like Reese Hoskins level slumps, and those are slumps you never want to have someone in. You at least have to get them out of the lineup.
Yeah.
And pitchers, I agree. For pitchers are weird because if Barrios goes out next week and twirls 7 shutout, I don't think anyone's really going to bat an eye at it. And pitchers are guys that they're really odd. They're odd people. They're odd with mechanics. They're odd with how they do any given week. And the slightest thing could throw them off. So I agree that pitchers, you tend to hold on to them longer. And I probably hold on to them way too long. And I'm sure we'll be talking in 6 weeks. You're still sitting on my team that's got like a 5.5 ERA, and in 6 starts, and I'm still trotting him out there. But I definitely that the pitchers get a little bit of a longer leash, whether that's right or not. I agree that they definitely do.
The only thing I would say is a lot of that has to do with what's the size of your league, and so in our league, and you're going to see this, I think, from myself throughout the season, my leash isn't very long at all. And so if a guy is not performing, and just to be, because I drafted what's his name from Washington, Corbin, and so he went out there, Patrick Corbin, he went out and he got 1 point on opening day. I'm sorry, you're out. Okay, I took a flyer on him. I thought, well, he was an opening day starter. That's worth, a flyer. But that's all. So for him to be able to come back into my good graces the next time he goes out, he's going to have to do much better than that. And so, you just got to evaluate your situation. What kind of league are you in? Who was on the waiver wire? And so, because there are times where a guy might just be simply out of the lineup and he's way down there in the bottom, my 25th draft pick or whatever, I'll replace him at the drop of a hat to get somebody else that's swinging the bat well into my lineup. So,
yeah, I'm in an 8-man league, and I go through players like crazy because there are guys available in an 8-man league. There are guys on the waiver wire. I'm sitting there going, "Whoa, wait, what?" So I picked up Will Smith in the middle of the season last year, catcher from the Dodgers. Finished out my season pretty solid with him, being my catcher. And I wasn't planning on getting him back this year, but I was able to get him and Realmuto. I got them both just for the fun of it to see if maybe I could trade one down the road. We'll see how that shakes out.
So continuing with our draft, we had talked about pre-draft that we didn't think that Ronald Acuna would escape the second round. In fact, he went all the way to the fourth. And he went out. And so that has a potential of major value if he gets back on the field as fast as they say he is. Fourth round, that was one pick before I was on the clock. If that hadn't happened, I would have certainly taken. Maybe I would have taken somebody else in the fourth and then taken him in the fifth just to say, look, I'm getting fifth round value out of this guy. But so Bryce Baby was the one that took him. And so he's got a potential of having some major value there.
Let's give him a shout out. That's Nathan Newen, just for
Nathan. Okay. And then to start off the fifth round, I took Josh Hader, and you had said that was too early for a relief pitcher, Vince, even though that's your guy.
To clarify, it's too early for me for a relief pitcher. That's not my strategy. He's the best relief pitcher out there. He should get a ton of opportunities this year.
He did today.
Yeah. And he's the first one off the board. He should be. For me, I am very much a roll through the saves guy. I pick him up late in the draft. Our league has points for holds, and I waited too long for Devin Williams. I wanted him badly, but Dan D'Amico, I believe, jumped in and snagged him. So you guys have the two Brewers relievers I was interested in, but I just couldn't take Hader that high. For me, saves aren't as valuable as some other things.
Well, when it comes to I would agree with that with most other closers, but when it comes to Josh Hader, he's going to go out there and he's going to strike out 2-3 guys. And so he got 10 points today.
Nice.
You'll take that every single day of the week. And there's a chance he can go out there and get that 3-4 days.
Yeah.
And so that's why I wouldn't have taken any other relief pitcher that high. But since it was Josh Hader, he could even pitch more than an inning. He does that on a regular basis as well. So
yeah, I didn't mock you for it. I don't think it's a horrible pick or anything. It's just not in my strategy to do so, which means I don't have Josh Hader in any league that I'm in.
Okay, that's fair enough. And then so Dan, I wanted to mention this to you because with your selection, you took Yordan Alvarez, and then the next pick went off the board was Nick Castellanos. So was there any question in your mind that you were going to take Castellanos over Alvarez at all, or you were just locked in?
Well, I think Yordan Alvarez has the higher ceiling there. And, once you get out of the first couple rounds, I start to look for guys with higher ceilings because you can't win the draft in the first couple rounds. You could certainly lose the draft in the first couple rounds. And once we get to that 5, 6, 7 range, I'm looking for guys that can give me first round value. And for Yordan Alvarez, I see him as he's the best DH in baseball. If not now, he certainly will be soon. And while I love Castellanos coming to the Phillies, he had certainly a career year last year, and I'm worried about a little bit of regression, at least in the batting average and probably the strikeout total. So I was not looking at Castellanos there just for me, but I'm not gonna badmouth anyone taking Nick Castellanos in the 5th round. He's a professional hitter, and he hit a home run out to left center, and not many balls go out there in Citizens Bank Park.
Okay. And so the round continues. The other player I wanted to mention in that round is that Francisco Lindor went off the board on the 5th round. I think that has a lot of upside to me. And so as long as, he couldn't possibly be as bad as he was last year. And he had I think he had a good game yesterday. And so that was a good selection there. And
you don't have the information, do you, as far as how many shortstops were taken before him?
Well, right before him, Corey Seager went off the board.
Yeah, I had Lindor.
And I'm just looking at it. Let's see, because as we talked about, the shortstop position is so deep. And
yeah, I thought it was a reach for him. I thought he could have waited on Lindor. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. I wasn't planning.
Maybe he could have.
Yeah.
As in the 3rd round, you had Bo Bichette and Wander Franco go off the board back to back. So looking over this list, he probably could have waited a little bit because there were still some quality shortstops on the board.
But if he returns to form, it's a great pick.
It is.
That's the way with a couple of these guys. Boy, if they have a good season, they bounce back, then it's a great pick. That's kind of what I was thinking on with my Yelich pick. And but if it doesn't, then you look like a fool.
So then that round, Vince, you took Jose Altuve. I think there is a lot of upside taking him in the 5th round. So that was a good pick on your part. And then, as you said, you went homer. You took Christian Yelich in the 6th round when you had guys like Austin Riley go right behind him. Brian Reynolds, I like him, even though he plays for Pittsburgh. That's the only downside to him.
It's a big downside.
And it's a big downside, granted.
In my opinion.
And then Salvador Perez went off the board in the 6th round. As we talked about when we did our catchers, I'm not taking a catcher in the 6th round. I don't care if he did hit 48 home runs a year ago. I'm not doing that. So I think that's early for a catcher.
I just wasn't big. I mean, I know he's a great player and that kind of stuff. He's just not a guy I wanted on my fantasy team. And it's one of those I can't explain why. I didn't want him. And so I was happy to see him go in the 6th round.
And so in that same round, you had, Bryce Baby once again go his Philadelphia connection. JT Realmuto went off the board in the 6th round. That's way too early for him. That's all I'll say about him.
That happens in fantasy football, right, Kevin, where you get runs on positions.
It does.
One guy takes
happen.
the catcher, and all of a sudden guys are like, oh, I better get my catcher now.
People take a tight end, and all of a sudden, oh, my goodness, I have to get mine. No, never mind that you could have had one in the 22nd round or whatever. So then I took Logan Webb and then Dylan Cease. You have to admit that is a monster back-to-back starting pitcher selection. So, just one start in. They both were outstanding this past weekend. That's a grand slam to me. Cedric Mullins, you got to like that. Then, Dan, you took Manoah, and there's a lot of upside there. And let's see. Carlos Correa went off the board in the 7th round. That has the potential of having a lot of upside. Mike took Raciel Iglesias? Is that how you pronounce his name? That's a little high to me. Jose Abreu, that's a great pick in the 8th round. Then you took Trevor Story, Vince. I think that's a great pick for you because, in the next 2 weeks, he's going to add second base eligibility. And that's going to really take him, to the next level. And then Cronenworth went off the board. You got to like him. And then let's see. Then your dad took Luis Robert. I think that's a great selection. So, and then Dan, you took Will Smith right here. So if Luis Robert had not gone off the board right before that, would you have taken him?
Yeah, I think Luis Robert is primed for a really good season. Another one, I probably would have taken Dylan Cease over Alek Manoah the round before.
Yeah, I stepped in before you, so yeah.
Absolutely. And
So,
that was just the start of some guys I was just missing out on on my fantasy team. But absolutely, Luis Robert has the potential to make
a monster season. He's got it in
the 8th round look criminally low.
Yeah,
I think he's a guy that we could be talking about next year, in the top 20 picks, if not higher, because he's got he's a 5-tool guy. He's a good defender. He's really fast, and he can hit for power. So if he puts it all together this year, he's a guy that probably was a dark horse MVP guy this year and could be one of the favorites next year if everything goes to plan this season.
All right, so then we're really getting into it now, and this is we only took an hour and a half to get to this point in our draft, but we soldiered forward. And so Dan, in the 9th round, this is where you took Tatis. And so, do you like him in that slot in the 9th round as far as value, knowing that you're not going to get a thing out of him for 3 months?
For right now, I like him. When he's burning a hole in my IL slot in the middle of June, and I desperately need a starter on like a Saturday, and I'm down 15 points, I'm going to like it a little less. And then I'm just going to have to tough it out because I'm committed to him. He's certainly, when he comes back, he'll be like one of those trade deadline acquisitions everyone loves to talk about when someone comes back healthy. He'll be like that for me, but I need him to hit the ground running, and I'm hoping my team can keep me in a good spot until July or whenever he comes back. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm certainly looking forward to him coming back. I'm not looking forward to the day I need an IL spot.
So let me ask you this, Dan. So you put him immediately on your IL. So who did you replace him on your roster with?
I went out and I replaced him in later in the draft, and I believe I picked up another pitcher for him. I think it was Zach Eflin that I went out and picked up because I don't like holding a lot of bench bats. It's not something I've done. I like holding more starters as long as I'm not going to hit the start limit each week. I like to go right up to it. So I put him right on the IL. I had Brendan Rodgers and Bobby Witt and ready to go for the open shortstop spot. But I went out and I believe it was Zach Eflin was the guy I added probably 10 minutes after the draft.
Okay. So, Vince, let me throw this in your direction because in that same round, then you had Jacob deGrom went in the 9th round. Do you like that position in the draft?
And I was going to ask Dan that why the 9th, because I know when you took Tatis, you kind of said, I think now's the time. DeGrom, the question is how long can you wait for him? If you're willing to sit him, which you have to be, of course, you have to question what is everybody else thinking, and can I get him? How late can I get him? We talked about Acuna already. That one he should have gone earlier. I kicked myself when he got drafted. It's like, man,
yeah, me too.
Tatis, it was earlier than I was willing to go for him. Same with DeGrom, so I think with DeGrom especially, he's had so many injury issues. As a pitcher, boy, you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so you'd have to have him on the 20th round before I'd be willing to go, something like that. Top 10, no, I don't think I'd be willing to.
It depends.
The value is not there.
It depends on the pitchers on your roster too, though. If you're drafting and you haven't gotten any pitchers yet, then you're thinking, well, I have to take a swing because if DeGrom comes back healthy, that's better than a number of pitchers that you're drafting at that point if you don't have any pitchers yet. So in that case, I'm willing to consider it. I didn't put myself in that situation. So DeGrom really wasn't an option for me. Tatis is a guy I would have considered. I was hoping maybe he would drop further, 12th, 13th, 14th round, somewhere like that. But I remember Dan in the draft, he said, now's the time.
I remember him saying that. So, all right. So continuing on, Vince, you got Chris Bassett and Eloy Jimenez back to back. You got to like that. I think that's got a lot of value upside there. Chris Bassett already pitched. He looked pretty good. So you got to like that.
Chris Bassett was my second pitcher I drafted. So
okay,
I needed,
so
I needed
get him in the 9th round as your second pitcher. You got to like that. And then let's see, then Yasmani Grandal went off the board. That's a little high still to me for a catcher, even though we had a home run yesterday. And then Rhys Hoskins went right off the board, and this is where our debate comes in.
Hold on
Rhys
one
Hoskins
second.
versus Cody Bellinger.
Let's set the stage real quick, Kev.
Yeah.
That's when ESPN went out. And so my dad was picking, and he had auto picked for him because the server
we
went
were
dead.
frozen, yeah.
So everybody said pause the draft, and Dan was able to get on and select Rhys Hoskins. Then the deal was okay, Dad, did you mean to draft him? No, I'm not sure. That was not who I was going to pick. So we deleted that pick. When then 20, 30 minutes later, when we were able to draft, it was Dad's pick again before Dan's pick, and Dad did the dirty. He said, this is who I had queued up. I don't know if I believe him or not, but he did the dirty, took Rhys Hoskins, and left Dan crying for the next hour that he missed out on Rhys Hoskins.
Right, and that crying increase, it continues to this day because, like we said, Cody Bellinger, he's in the negatives, and I would have never have selected him that early in the draft, but that's just me. Because in that round, I got Sean Manaea.
I didn't want him.
Didn't want him. Okay, I wouldn't have blamed you for if you just cast him overboard. So,
and I looked back on our live feed, and I'm pretty sure I saw him give a little smirk to the camera right before we all saw that he picked Hoskins. So I saw him rub it in second time.
Continuing on, and of course, as you predicted, Vince, I got Marte. So, got to like him in that spot in the draft. Then you took Framber Valdez. You got to like that.
I love that. He was my favorite Astros pitcher, and he looked good starting out. And then followed up with Sonny Gray to add more pitching.
Up in Minnesota, as you mentioned, as long as he's not in Cincinnati, you're good with that. And then let's see, that's where Bobby Witt went off the board, as you're saying, Dan. Got to like that pick there.
Week 1, we're going to do this every week, Kev. We're going to compare Cody Bellinger to Rhys Hoskins because that was the swap that ended up happening there in that pick. So far, Bellinger's at -2. Hoskins is at 7 points. So far, Rhys Hoskins.
So 1 week in,
better pick.
Yeah. As we mentioned, Dan is still crying. So, all right. So we're getting close to the end here. Is there anything else in our draft, Vince, that stood out to you where you were either like, yes, that's a great pick, or you were scratching your head going, what in the world is happening here? Yeah,
I'll give you my one pick that I just was when I made it, I thought, I can't believe he's still here. It's Matt Chapman in Toronto.
He looked he hit one a mile today. I don't know if you saw that, man.
I drafted him. I had it pulled up. I forget. I think 150th. 149th, something like that. Is where
Matt Chapman went off the board to you in the 15th round.
I loved it. I couldn't believe he was there.
Value right there.
I didn't have a third baseman either, and I was like, I need a third baseman. I was like, oh, Matt Chapman's there. I'm pretty happy with that one.
So Dan, any pick that you were like, oh man, I got him?
Devin Williams. If as long as we're valuing holds.
So you just wanted to rub that in. So
the 24th round for Devin Williams, I kind of didn't believe it. Yeah. I was like, he was gone in the 16th round because I think I accidentally said during the draft, I didn't want to, that holds were the same amount of points as saves, and I assumed Devin Williams just went off the next pick.
Yeah, I was mad when that came across the air. I was like, "Be quiet!" If they didn't read the rules, it's on them.
So for me,
I think for a premier relief pitcher, even not getting saves, Devin Williams was fantastic.
Because you got to remember, there is a statistic in our league for holds too.
Yeah.
So that'll work into your favor, and I had to pick 2 picks, as a matter of fact, right in because I took Adam Wainwright in the 20th round. I think that is great value. And then right after that, I took Carlos Santana. I don't know what in the world I was thinking when I did that. So I don't know. So he's still on my team. Who knows how long that's going to continue? But I took him way off, too early off the board. And so, this week, it's 2 combined weeks, I guess, a week and a half. So maybe next week we'll be able to sit down and get a pretty better idea of who won and who lost. And I just like to point out that as of today, I've got the most points in the league.
That's all those
I'm just
pitching
gonna put that out
performances you got. Sean Manaea had 30 plus because I don't think he allowed a hit in 7
He
innings.
didn't. Yeah, he did not allow a hit. So, I've tried to be humble, but sometimes it's hard.
All-star the
All
first
right,
3
so
days.
let's go ahead and wrap this up, Vince. We know you're everywhere out there, but just tell us where we can actually find you.
Yeah, the Sports Stove, anywhere you get your podcasts. We're on Belly Up TV Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. Tomorrow's episode, Parker Ainsworth, the Belly Up basketball department head, is on the show. We're talking NBA playoffs and a lot of LeBron talk. I'm not a LeBron guy, so we had some fun conversation regarding that as well. And I thought it was an absolute blast of a conversation, so tune into that tomorrow. Twitter and Instagram at Sports Stove. You can follow as well.
All right, Dan, so where can we find you?
You can follow me, Twitter, at DanDomingo14. If it's still working, I think my Twitter just kind of exploded when Kyle Schwarber led off the season with a home run. I saw, I think, 15 or so tweets in a row, including one of my own, in all caps. So
Hey, that worked.
That's certainly what you can find. And follow Belly Up Baseball, Twitter, Instagram, at Belly Up Baseball. We have some more consistent content coming out now. Adding some more writers in every day, and always got some good stuff coming out.
Always. Belly Up. It's got good stuff always. And, of course, you can follow me at Kevin62, WILSEA. And I got an article on fantasy baseball that's going to be coming out every week. I already had one, Vince. They came out because a lot of players, we didn't really get into this too much, but there are a lot of players that are injured already. Yep. And so I have an article out there who you can replace those guys with. So check that out. And until next time, everybody have a great week. And remember, baseball